Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Inside the Birds TV presented by DraftKings Sportsbook with, of course, Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. And if you're watching, you can see Adam is back in LA on Radio Row. He has not left yet there. He's on hand to get all that great intel down in Los Angeles for the Super Bowl. We're going to do a Super Bowl preview. We previewed it a little bit in the podcast, but we're going to do a little bit more in-depth preview for this episode. There is not any breaking Eagles news, but at the time of us recording this, what we talked about, Adam, in the pod, Press Taylor has become the offensive coordinator for Doug Peterson, which is something that we had predicted and said would happen in the podcast the prior to. Also, Adam, while you've been away on the West Coast, Ben Simmons is no longer a Philadelphia 76er. The big trade that brings James Harden to the Sixers. You got to be excited about that. I think you're excited.
I love it. Yeah, I am. The only, it hurts their depth. The only downside is, if Embiid gets hurt, or he's going to miss some games. But although he's shown the ability to play through injury this season, they don't really have a backup center now. Although I like Charles Bassey a lot. He's a pretty active rebounder. He can block some shots, but obviously that's a big downgrade from Drummond. But the bottom line is they got that extra scorer. They didn't have to give up Harris. Their starting lineup is going to be fantastic. They still have some needs. Backup point guard's an issue, though. Harden could play the one. He's actually a pretty good passer. Defense is certainly questionable, but they got that score. And I put something on Twitter the day of the trade. It's funny. I was like, hopefully his hamstring magically healed. He missed. Yeah. You can see the tweet up, but that was hilarious. But I'm happy as a Sixer fan. Yes, no more. And I get all the drama. People are sick and tired of it. I was, you were, we all were. It was dominating talk radio, obviously in Philly in particular. Now we can move on. It'll be dissected and how everything will match up and so forth. But as a diehard Sixer fan, I love it for now. Obviously, they'll have to deal with Harden and his future after the season. But for now, if everyone can stay healthy, their scoring is going to go way up. And that's the thing, is they needed that other scorer in the worst way. That was their number one need. Mm-hmm. Some other needs they're going to have to see what happens to the buyout market. But the fact of the matter is they got that score and giddy up.
Yeah, let's go. Buckle up. It's going to be lit. I agree. They got not just a scorer, but a backcourt ball handling, playmaking scorer, which, they really haven't had since a Jimmy Butler. And they got as far as they were going to go with Butler and lost to Kawhi Leonard and the eventual champion Raptors there. So this kind of gives them that kind of a backcourt threat who can handle the ball and all that. So, yeah, we'll see. It's going to be really interesting. Those Bucks Sixers games and those Nets Sixers games are going to be on fire down the stretch. It got me thinking from an Eagles standpoint, though, Adam. If you were to make a list of the top athletes, pro athletes in Philadelphia, I think you'd have to say 1, 2, 3 in whatever order. Bryce Harper, Joel Embiid, James Harden, however you want to put that in order. It's probably been a long time since a Philadelphia Eagle couldn't crack the top 3 of the best pro athletes in Philly. And if you're going 4, you're probably putting Zach Wheeler there over maybe Jason Kelce or Darius Slay. I don't even know who you would put as the best Eagle, Kelce, Slay, or Lane Johnson, probably.
True. It's funny. Zach Wheeler is so good. He's
amazing.
He's not a guy that people talk about, but you're right. In terms of best players at their position on the big four although I don't follow the Flyers closely, like most people listening probably don't. It's just they're a team that not a lot of people talks about. It is amazing that the Flyers have always drawn pretty well. They've had such an aptitude for so long. It's almost hard to believe. It was never like that when I was growing up in Philly.
No, it's reached an all-time low. Yeah,
it's embarrassing, quite frankly. Yeah, but no, it's cool. I remember I've talked about this before. I was on the Fanatic in 2011, the day of the Nnamdi Asomugha signing and the Hunter Pence trade, within hours of each other. Like within 2 hours, Tom Byrne and I were on one of the casinos, and we're like, this is unbelievable. You don't see two Philly teams make blockbuster moves, depending on who's looking at it. Some might not call Hunter Pence then blockbuster. I did. I thought it was pretty. He was a great player there.
Huge trade. Yeah, it was obviously a huge trade for them. Yeah, at the time, right?
Yeah. So I liked it. I thought it was. In the end, before we move on here, I'm a big Daryl Morey fan. We know this is his guy. Everybody knows if you follow Sixers, this is Daryl Morey's guy. They were together in Houston. He wanted him to not trade Matt here. People thought I was out of my mind to say should do that trade. I got roasted on Twitter. I was like, I'm telling you, Maxey's really, really gifted, and this year, obviously, he's taking this game to the next level. You don't mortgage some of your best players for just one season. Correct. They didn't mortgage. I mean, giving them future first. Who cares? Yeah. This is not the NFL. These picks mean nothing.
That's right.
Look, you got to give up to get right. So they give some depth.
Yeah.
They'll find a way. And I know Doc will complain about not having a backup one or a backup 3, okay, and all that stuff. But you know what? You got your big time scorer. Now here's the thing, though. Before we move on, this applies to the NFL. When you're bringing players in season from another team, you've got to get them involved in your offense. So Embiid, Harris, and Harden are going to have to find a way to play together. Particularly, Harden and Embiid dominate the football. And you've seen it when teams make trades. Now, OBJ, right, for the Rams this week's Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Now, Robert Woods was hurt. He tore his ACLs. But at some point, the first couple weeks, it was not looking good for OBJ, and then they finally worked it out. But when you put a lot of scorers on the same team, no matter what sport it is, particularly basketball, because they have to stay, it's the basketball they possess.
Right.
You've got to figure out a way to make it work. And this is going to be a challenge for Doc Rivers. It's not just plug him in and play. It's not that easy. It's just not that easy.
That's fair. Fair point. All right, there's still time to get in on this Super Bowl. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code ITB. You can get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 or more and get 280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code ITB at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Adam, let's do a position-by-position breakdown and just see kind of who has the edge, and then we'll give our predictions again. So quarterback, this is really tough. You have Matthew Stafford for the Rams, and of course you have Joe Burrow for the Bengals. Who do you like in this situation? They're both very talented. They're both really good. Who do you just feel should have the edge at that position?
All right, I would have to say Stafford because of experience. And you know what's funny? You rarely see this. The two super aggressive passers are playing against each other in the Super Bowl. It's pretty remarkable to me. For all those years that Stafford struggled, he had a bad record with bad teams, but a lot of it had to do with the talent around them. And now you see what he's doing. Just a remarkable year with 40 touchdown passes. No, he didn't close as we said in the last show, he didn't close the regular season particularly well. Had some turnovers, but I trust him more. I trust Sean McVay more as a play call. I'm a big on trusting the play caller or not trusting him. That's just the way it is. When you look at it, if you compare both passers, I like Stafford more right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I would go with Stafford as well for that reason alone. The experience, the power arm. Not that Joe Burrow's, we know Joe Burrow has a good arm, not like Stafford. Stafford has one of the better power arms in the league. He can drive the ball. He's got great weapons, and of course, he's got the experience there. So I think it's very, very close. And Joe Burrow is playing out of his mind. But on QB, I would still go Rams. Stafford. How about wide receiver? This to me is really difficult. You have a terrific set. If you just take the top three, right? You've got the Rams with Odell Beckham Jr., of course, Cooper Kupp, and Van Jefferson, and you compare that to what the Bengals have with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. I actually think that while the Rams have the best wide receiver among the group in Kupp, I like Higgins and Boyd as a 2 and a 3. Just a little bit more than Beckham and Van Jefferson. So I'd say they're deeper.
I would because yes, they the MCL sprain. He had been on the run before he got hurt with 22 receptions over 4 games, but he says he's playing, but how effective he'll be is the big issue. Yeah, so right now, and Boyd's their slot receiver. He's a tall slot. Higgins and Chase on the outside with Boyd. And then when you look at the Rams situation, it's Van Jefferson is their 3. What's interesting about Van Jefferson is when he was drafted, no one really saw him as a vertical slot, but he's shown the ability to get downfield. Like this is pretty interesting. I don't think most teams saw him as a guy who could run that well, but obviously he's a polished kid because his dad, Sean Jefferson, you might remember him, number 84 for many teams. He's one of the better receiver coaches in the NFL. With the great Cooper Kupp, arguably the NFL's best receiver. And Beckham, as you said, here's the thing with him, he's healthy. And he's got great chemistry with Stafford. But I would have a slight lean, as you break these down, to the Bengals. Jamar Chase is – and another thing about Chase is all the people ding him for speed. I don't think that's an issue, okay, folks? This guy gets open, and he runs after the catch.
Yeah, he's explosive. He's got it all. Jamar Chase is a true stud in this league. So all right, so we're both on with quarterback and wide receiver, Rams and Bengals there. Tight end, we mentioned a little bit. Both of them have injuries at tight end. Obviously, Uzoma for the Bengals and Higbee for the Rams. So look at their depth. Which team do you think just has better overall depth at this position?
Well, the interesting thing is Bryce Hopkins, Brad's son, really doesn't play very much when Higbee had been healthy. It's Kendall Bland, who's come out of nowhere as a 3-year practice squad player. He scored a couple touchdowns late in the season. This Drew Sample, who I mentioned on the previous show, he really hasn't done very much. Though there's a second-round pick in 19. I think it because it seems like Uzama is healthier of the two tight ends who both have MCL sprains. I would have the slight lean because if both were healthy, I think it's slightly lean towards Higbee because Higbee's a better blocker. He's super athletic.
Right.
If you recall, when Higbee came out of the draft for Western Kentucky in 2016, he was known as a vertical slot tight end. Wasn't asked to block very well, and he's been very good. In fact, the Vikings and Rams almost pulled off a trade 3 years ago for Higbee going to the Vikings, but it wound up not happening. But it was pretty close, I was told. Mm-hmm. But Higbee is really, really good. And if he doesn't play, this to me is a problem. You're down at one of their top 4 pass targets. Guy who I would have liked had he been healthy for the DraftKings prop bets, I would have taken like over 3. I would have put him over that. I think he would have done that, but he's hurt.
Right. Yeah, I don't know where to go with this. I think I would agree with you that the Rams would have the slight edge, but both guys are banged up. I don't want to do ties here, so I want to pick one. I'm probably going to still give it to the Rams by a slight edge.
Just you mean overall of skill positions? I mean, receiver,
tight end.
Oh, it's
a fair to say it's a draw, but I'm trying to pick somebody here.
Well, I'm going to pick the Bengals because it seems like Uzama's healthier. He said he's playing where they don't know if Higbee's going to be able to play. That's where we're at here as we are.
That's a good point. You know what? That's fair. I'm gonna switch to Cincinnati on that presumption alone right there that he's a little bit more healthier. Okay. Running backs. This is interesting. Obviously, we know the bell cow for the Rams is Mixon. I'm not mad. The Bengals is Mixon, and for the Rams, their guy, it's Sony Michel. I mean, they have is Akers healthy? Have they been able to work him in?
Minor shoulder. Yeah, he'll play. Sony Michel and here's a note. Darrell Henderson's probably going to play coming back from his MCL sprain. Sean McVay did say that. It sounds like he's going to be able to play. Now, if you're looking at the prop, that's throws a wrench in it. Now, he would be a third back, but who knows? Is he going to get 2 carries, 7? They have to figure that out and see where he is physically because they only had a walkthrough on Wednesday. They're one of the teams that always says they only had a walkthrough on Wednesday. Right. So we have to see. Now, Akers took just about all the work in the last game. Mm-hmm. Sony Michel barely played, which is kind of odd to me. He's the healthier of the 2 backs.
Right.
So that I would have to say now, I would take Mixon over all of them.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And by the way, Samaje Perine, he had the touchdown against the Chiefs. He's a pretty good backup.
Yeah, he is a good backup. He started his career with Washington, if I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Never really got into their rotation much, but yeah, obviously with Cincinnati, he's got a good backup role there. So yeah, I'm just taking that and saying, hey, Mixon's the best of the bunch, and Perine's not bad. I mean, obviously the Rams have probably deeper talent because Akers and Henderson are better than Perine, but only one guy can get the ball here, so at one time. So I'm going to go with the Bengals in the running back department there as far as having the edge. So we've done quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, running back. Let's do O-line here to finish off the offense.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
I don't even think this is going to be much of a discussion.
Yeah.
Everything we've done so far, we've said, well, slight edge to the Rams on quarterback, slight edge to the Bengals on wide receiver. This one to me is not even a question. It's a no-brainer. It's the edge is the Rams. No doubt.
In fact, and I love that prop, that Aaron Donald sack prop. One full sack. I love that one because he's had at least one full sack in 10 out of his 20 games he's played this season. So I love that one. Mm-hmm. Obviously. Now I'd say this: the Rams' offensive line isn't that good. They have the 40-year-old Andrew Whitworth. They're okay in the interior.
Right.
Havenstein's back at right tackle, but they're, as you said, they're obviously way better than the Bengals have a bottom 5 O-line. Quite frankly, that is, to me, the difference in this game.
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to put my reputation on the line here, which I've done before on Laquan Treadwell, but another guy who I've spent a lot of time watching tape on for the Scouting Academy, and I low-key kind of like him. And in fact, when I studied tape on him, he played for a different team. So two different teams, he's actually become a pretty good player. And I have the receipts to prove my report that I thought he was going to be decent, is Quinton Spain, the right guard. Now, I'm not telling you he's a Pro Bowl caliber player. What I'm saying is when he was a backup for the Titans, I watched him play. He had to fill in a few times, and I said, you know what? This guy can play in the NFL. And then he wound up going, I believe he started for the Bills, and then he went from the Bills to the Bengals, and he has started for them, and he's on a Super Bowl team. He's not great, but he's not bad. He can hold his own. Of course, he's going to go up against Aaron Donald, though, so he's going to wind up probably getting waxed and making me look bad. But I actually like Quinton Spain. I've studied him a lot. I think he's a decent offensive lineman.
His problem is pass blocking. He's a below-average pass blocker. Really good run blocker. He's a power guy. That's why he's bounced around from Tennessee, Buffalo, now Cincinnati, because he's just not good enough athletically. But look, they've got an offensive line that gave up 9 sacks to a 34 front. That's got Jeffrey Simmons went off in that game. Harold Landry. This is where, and when we talk about matchups, Leonard Floyd and Von Miller, who had a great run in the playoffs, the playoff run, the Super Bowl run that the Broncos had years ago, who's still getting it done. That does not bode well for the Bengals. It really doesn't. That does worry me in this matchup.
All right, let's move to the defensive side. I think we're going to have sort of the same conversation on defensive line. To me, the Rams have the better defensive line. Of course, they have Von Miller and Aaron Donald, but I don't want to act like the Bengals have a bad defensive line just because they don't have household names. Trey Hendrickson had double-digit sacks, like 14 or 15 sacks, and Sam Hubbard's a good pass rusher. They've got a couple of guys that they get in and out there. So they're a good defensive line. They're not great, but they've got some good pass rushers. I don't want to underscore them, but I do give the Rams the advantage here.
The one issue for the Bengals, it hasn't really hurt them yet, but the loss of Larry Ogunjobi, one of the starting D tackles that plays next to DJ Reader, he's their 3 technique. So he's done. He broke his foot, so he's out for the playoffs and Super Bowl. B.J. Hill was acquired before the season started from the Giants in the trade. He starts for him. They don't have very good depth. Now, the Rams don't get Sean McVay mixed up for just guys to throw the ball all the time. It starts with the run game, just like with Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
That's why they have a lot of play action. Now, yes, if they have to get into a throw match, they'll do that. But their offense does start with the run game and play action. And obviously, with Stafford, you can make any throw. But, yeah, you're right. When you look at it, yes, the Rams, just their front 7, the Rams front 7 is better than the Bengals. But you're right, Sam Hubbard, very underrated at one of their DNs. And I love Logan Wilson, their middle linebacker, who had a shoulder injury earlier this season. Good player. But I would side to the Rams. It's not a huge lean, but I would side to them.
Well, we gave defensive line to the Rams. I want to differentiate linebacker, though, because I do like Logan Wilson. For the Rams, they're good at linebacker. I don't think they're, I would think that Logan is probably the most talented of all the kind of the inside linebackers. Leonard Floyd's a pass rusher, so I'm going to kind of throw him into the pass rush there. The Rams guys are Roseboom and Troy Reader, right? So, and then I'm sure that they play a lot of nickel and dime as well. But I would probably give the linebackers with Logan Wilson, Pratt. I know Marcus Bailey plays a little bit, I believe, for them. I'd probably give the linebackers a slight edge to Cincinnati.
Just pure linebackers, tacklers, not pass rushers. Yes, I would agree with you. But just Logan Wilson's better than any of their inside linebackers. Right. But again, remember, they're not running the same front. They run a different defense. They're completely different. So and then, by the way, the Rams will go 5-2. They'll load the box up. It's going to be interesting to see what wrinkles Raheem Morris brings in for this matchup, and also Kevin O'Connell. This will be his last game as offensive coordinator for the Rams as he takes over after this game as the Vikings head coach.
Right. All right, safeties. This is another one where I think the individual talent of Jesse Bates on the Bengals kind of trumps everything. I mean, I Nick Scott, Taylor Rapp, they have they'll play some different back end packages, the Rams do, where they mix guys in and out. But I think I would slightly favor the Bengals in the safety department because they have both Von Bell, who's an experienced guy, and Jesse Bates, who's a pro. I mean, I think he made the Pro Bowl, correct? I mean, he's a really good safety.
His contract's up. He's really good. No, I would agree with you. He's fantastic. They're way better. Von Bell and Carter Allen's a good third safety. They're way better. And by the way, Trey Flowers, it won't happen probably in this matchup because of Higbee's injury, but he became their tight end matchup. Right. So yeah, they're actually way deeper in the secondary, particularly at safety, than the Rams are. The farther you stretch out the Rams, because by the way, the Bengals run a ton of 3 receiver sets. They run a lot of 11 personnel. Sure. So you're going to see that here. You're going to see that.
All right, so Cincinnati then with the edge at safety. Corner, I would give to the Rams. Obviously, they have Jalen Ramsey, but they're pretty deep at that position in general. And I don't, in a big game, I know Mike Hilton has played well for the Bengals. I feel like Eli Apple is going to get picked on big time in this game. I feel like he's the weak link here for Cincinnati, and that's going to be a really difficult matchup against both Kupp and Beckham. So I'm going to give the cornerback edge to the Rams.
The thing with the Rams that annoys me is that they play so much zone defense.
Right.
They play the most zone in the NFL in the second half, over 90% zone. I don't understand it with Jalen Ramsey. Now, you can't argue they're in the Super Bowl, but this is a matchup where it's going to hurt them because they're not good with their third corner, David Long, is just average. Darius Williams is one of their other starting corner. I do believe, actually, I wouldn't agree with you on this. I do believe you could go after the corners, other than Ramsey, obviously, and have success. And they will do that. There's no doubt, because with Uzomah's injury, to me, they're going to have to play more 11 personnel.
So you would give the edge to Cincinnati in corners?
No. But they have one great corner, obviously, where they're better. But overall, Mike Hilton's a way better slot corner, third corner, way better than David Long. So yeah, so because you don't grade the position by one guy. Yes, Eli Apple's not very good. I get it, but you're absolutely right. They're going to go after him. But overall, the Rams worry me. The deeper you get, the more you spread them out. But I get your point about who's number one corner is better. Chido Awuzie is a good player, but Ramsey's twice as good. Yeah. So I'll go with you on that one. It's Ramsey and everybody.
I hear what you're saying, but I have to go through the group as an overall, and I still think the Rams I would take their secondary or their cornerbacks overall weighted because they have a great one over the Bengals cornerbacks who don't have anybody great. They have a good one in Hilton who's better in the slot, and then they have a guy you can really pick on in Apple. So I see what you're saying, that maybe they're not as strong as people think the Rams are, but they're still better than Cincinnati's corners, I would say.
Only because of Ramsey.
Right, because of Ramsey, but that's a big part of it. So the interesting thing, as we divvy it up here, it's Cincy kind of wins in the 9 categories 5-4. However, in the categories where the Rams win, like offensive line, defensive line, they win by so much that I think you and I both believe that the Rams are going to win this game.
100%, and that's why I was asking a lines maker here, my buddy Dave Sharafin. I said to Dave, I was like, he asked me, what do you think the line would be? My personal line would have been 5. And he said, he goes, he explained to me how it works with putting out the line. You put a number out, you see where the money goes, and you adjust it accordingly. My personal line would have been 5, but as soon as I break this down, I'd make it more towards 3.5.
Yeah, that's fair. We kind of talked about that in the pod. I'm going to stick with my score. I think I said 26-21 Rams is how I see it, which is 5, as you mentioned. What was your final?
I'm going to call it 27-23 Rams.
All right. So we both picked the Rams in that 4-5 range neighborhood, and we'll see how bright we are or how dumb we are right around, 8 or 9 o'clock on Sunday. All right. The next Inside the Birds podcast will drop Monday morning, 6 a.m. We'll be chock full of news, I'm sure, and we'll recap the Super Bowl. For Adam Caplan down in Los Angeles, I'm Geoff Mosher. Thanks for watching Inside the Birds TV.